Well, hello and welcome. I'm Sue Britz,
And I'm Tina Lokkbakk. Welcome to Retired.
the podcast where we talk about what life is like when we put on new tread, new wheels that move us to our next adventure. Did you want to mention what we're going to be talking about today?
I do, because I did some researching this morning because I had to know where this came from.
So you're going to talk about
So
Harry
our-
Truman?
Yes, I am. Can I do it? Can I do it, please?
Please. I don't know.
Thank
Can
you.
you? Can you?
Yes, I can. I
Okay.
can.
You can do
Okay.
hard things.
I can. Oh my gosh. Shout out to Glennon Doyle.
Okay.
And
You and your
Abby
shout outs and your
Amanda.
plugs and all that stuff. Okay. Yeah.
Yes. Yep. We can do hard things. This is our hard thing. Where does the term "the buck stops here" come from? And yes, our president, Harry Truman. And to be honest, I thought it was going to be Teddy Roosevelt because he was so known for his hunting and loving of the outdoors. So I thought it came from him. So I was very disappointed that I wasn't right. Here we go. So he kept a sign in his Oval Office, and it said, "The buck stops here." And the expression came from the older phrase, "pass the buck," meaning to shift responsibility to someone else. And it is believed that buck came from poker. It's a marker sometimes described as a buckhorn-handled knife, and it was used to indicate whose turn it was to deal.
Okay, so when you play poker, you have a dealer chip. Nowadays, it's just a round chip. It's a larger than the regular chip, and it says dealer on it. And you use that to indicate who the dealer is. And so, yeah, in the old days, it used to be a knife. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
Which makes total sense when you're playing
true,
poker.
in the middle of a
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
wild
So
west.
it's establishing a lot of when that chip is sitting in front of you, like that knife sitting in front of you, it would have carry a lot of significance, and it's a threat, but it's
Yes,
also
it
a
is.
comfort, it's a protection, it's all those things, and that relates also to the idiom that we're talking about. The buck stops here.
True. And it's all agreed upon. That's the thing. That knife, being the person who's dealing, is an agreed upon rule.
Mhm.
So it's kind of a neat thing. It's a
Yeah.
symbol for the rules that have been agreed upon at the table, but scary to think of it being a knife. Yeah. Because that's when anger and a little bit too much drink. Like, I wonder how many people were killed by that buck
Well,
knife.
it's the power behind the rule too, because without rules, without implementation.
Yes. That's so true.
Is the problem. That's what we're going to be talking about today. Rules without implementation, yeah. I always, in the old days, I used to think of the buck stops here being like the dollar bill.
I did too.
And that also fits for the teachers and the teacher salary. You only get a buck. I mean, the buck stops here literally, teachers struggle. I mean, I know that unless you've got someone else, another adult in your household who's also making a professional salary, but a real professional salary, then a lot of times teachers in their households are living from paycheck to paycheck. And by the end of the month, people are scrambling for what they're eating, and that's a reality. And when they retire, it's a reality that they may be priced out, living in the closet of their home and renting out the rest, because I've heard these stories, or moving out of state, so the buck stops here.
For you personally, give me an example of what that means to you.
Well, I think I'm that kind of teacher. I mean, the buck stops here. I take my responsibilities, my commitments very seriously. And so as a teacher, you're charged with teaching curriculum. That's your main function in theory. But the reality is we know that teaching is so much more than that. You are teaching norms. You are teaching how to get along. You are providing a safe environment. You've got all these things that are thrown at you through the curriculum, and beyond the curriculum is the unspoken curriculum, and then all the other details they put on. So my job is, I'm going to do those things, and at the same time carry all the expectations of kids and family, my own personal integrity, not selling myself out because of parent pressure to do something that I know is not correct, know is not right. But that's the thing. The buck stops here. I should have had that poster in my classroom too and talk about it because, we share this
With only
responsibility.
an image of the buck knife, not the real
Well,
thing.
not the buck knife, but you could have a
I
you
know,
could
I'm
have a dollar bill.
teasing.
You could have the actual
I
deer,
know.
and talk about it.
Yeah.
But the we talked about it takes a village last week, and this is the same thing. It takes a village, and in that village, you got to have a sense of responsibility and commitment to it. And so, if everyone understands that that's what teachers are doing, they have this responsibility and commitment behind it. When you send your kid off to school, I mean, and it's required by law, uh, that they're going to be receiving, different, they're going to be exposed to a culture outside their own home culture. And that is what we do when we live in a society. you there's an expectation that you participate in it and follow its norms and conventions. Doesn't mean you have to do things that are wrong or that you can't keep growing or adjusting those norms and expectations, but it needs to be done in a respectful way. And those who maintain those norms uh, should be commended and supported. And um, yeah, I mean, that's a problem in our schools today where individual teachers teaching in general is not supported. Society in general says they care most about kids, and therefore they're teaching, other parts of society that support that. But that is bunk. And but individuals that teach believe that. So yeah.
For me, if we're going to tie in with teaching specifically, it came later. To me, the buck is the non negotiable, right? It's the non negotiable. That knife is a
Right.
symbol of this is not negotiable. It's do or die. Now, for me, it became clear at the end my buck, my non negotiable, which is a safe environment.
For everyone.
Yes. And obviously, it's about creating a safe environment for kids. And it begins in the classroom, but it is also needing to be supported outside of the classroom.
Mm-hmm.
And that really depends on the leader at the school. And I've had experiences of both amazing and absolutely threatening, right?
Right,
Which
right.
is why we have things called unions to protect us from the leadership that can go afoul.
Mm-hmm.
And in our school, I think you remember
You mean
when
the
we
one that we
first,
taught in together?
yes,
Okay.
it was terrifying because I had made the step to completely change grades. I went from a high school, I went to our school, sixth grade, and there was a teacher there. And the parents were all over this teacher. We both started, we were new. And within months, she was gone. And I saw the power of unhappy teachers. I saw the lack of power and leadership. I saw the whole thing just kind of implode upon itself. And I'm this new teacher, into this environment, scared to death. And luckily, I had support of the parents. And it felt safe because of them, even though they were the same people that made it unsafe. So that was the beginning of like something very different. At my high school before I came, what I also saw was the rotation of terrible leaders. So we had a couple of, it was a big school. So there was two or three vice principals.
You mean
Yeah.
when you were teaching high school before you
Before I
came to the
came to our
school? Yeah.
school.
Okay.
Yeah. It's 6 years at a fairly rough school. And there were vice presidents or principals that were in charge of discipline and different things. I think there were two. And what I ended up seeing was a rotation of terrible vice principals that could not get fired. So they just rotated them. And it was a constant, just inequipped, just terrible leadership. I can't explain it other than that. And instead of somebody standing up and saying, perhaps you should not be in this kind of environment, this is not the role for you, go find a different job, or send them away for a year and teach them how to be a leader, but they didn't. And it was the joke that the next one came in. Oh, yeah, that one was at the last 5 schools. And I guess what I'm saying is that safety and environment with effective leadership is everything.
Mm-hmm.
And it's important for the students, which I always felt. But Sue, by the end, I realized it's about the teacher. It's also about the teacher. And I saw situations
Do you
where
mean
the
like what's
teachers,
being done to teachers as individuals, or you're saying teachers
as
are the ones in
everybody's so
charge of the?
afraid, everybody's so afraid to do what is logically the safe and right thing because of pressure to not get sued, because of pressure to not lose their job. I'm talking the leadership. And then leaving teachers to just kind of fend for themselves instead of protecting the teachers. And I think that has been a disappointment, that I've seen such terrible terrible leaders, and I think it's everything. And so my buck stops here is I would I believe in safety. And I mean safety for teachers as well as the students and everybody in between, emotional and physical safety. Both. That's my buck with teaching. And if it's okay, I don't know if I can say names, but I would like to say our friend Millie, who is going to hear this, she is now an administrator in a neighboring district. And I can't say enough about how I've seen her lead as a classroom teacher, how I've seen her lead us as teachers to get training and look forward to things. And she is the one leader that would even make me consider, like, I would be happy to go back to teaching due to her leadership, because I would feel like it would be a safe and warm environment for all. So I just want to say it can make all the difference.
Schools are given the chore, the duty, the responsibility to protect kids physically, emotionally. In fact, we are given instruction every year about child protective services. We're mandated reporters and how to keep kids safe outside of school or in school. We, or at least we used to, have restrictions about inoculations, what inoculations a child needed to have in order to be in school.
Mm-hmm.
Those were the good old days.
Mm-hmm.
And keeping people healthy, safe, and the community healthy, safe. Then we teach the standards. We build a community and environment in our classroom and within our schools and hopefully within our community and beyond. All those things are just the assumed responsibilities of a school. And there's pushback. There's pushback. I mean, we're just talking about the idea of inoculations. There's pushback from all these other components of society, from parents or children to our nation, who is changing what the expectations are. And how are you supposed to kind of go with the flow, manage all this as a teacher? That's one of the hardest things. And so you got all this stuff, all this weight on your back, all this stuff you're carrying. It gets very personal. You have to manage the communications between you and your colleagues, you and your school, you and the students, you and the parents. And it always comes back on the teacher. And when the buck stops here and you're carrying all of that stuff, it is so onerous, so difficult. And like you were saying, you need leadership to support that. You need the community to stand behind it and say, yeah, this is the entity that we want doing those things, and we are going to support them. On the reverse side, schools are blamed for everything that falls apart. And yet they keep piling things on to teachers, and they're blamed and blamed and blamed, and with reason. I mean, I was a fan of singing Pink Floyd, hey, teachers, leave your kids alone.
Kids
I mean,
alone.
and we all have felt that to some way. It's a little different when you're singing from a kid's point of view. I'm just part of my natural progress of growing is to push back against the norms and authority, and that's normal and it's important to do. There are times when you have to push back harder when there's racism or any kind of ism involved. Your responsibility is to push back even faster and harder. Um, but it's this weird duality that schools are given this authority to handle to teach our children, and yet all the authority is being pulled from them to do so. So you're stuck in this place where you're, quote, an authority figure, and yet
Have
you
no
got no
authority.
authority. And that makes it hard as an individual to say, hey, the buck stops here, and I'm going to care enough to hold that line and take those responsibilities seriously when there isn't that support.
I think back to times when there was a very challenging student and nothing was done. There was no letting that student go out of class and have a long time out. It was the expectation because for years the student had incredible defiant behavior and nobody wanted to deal with it. And that is where, as a teacher, you're expected to be the polite one, the strong one, the calm one. And I think that my buck is, when do we let one student with all the paperwork who can't be touched, who can't be removed, who can throw furniture and still show up every day, when do we think about the other 30 students and what their rights are?
Mm-hmm.
When do you think about the teacher and how much can a teacher hold the space for, to be strong for the 30, but also to show up each day? And I think that is, again, where leadership falls apart, starting with the principal, going all the way up the chain, again, and also way up to the government. We have put it in
Mm-hmm.
such a way that one child can dominate an environment for all. And that's where I see a shift. And I'm not saying that all teachers are perfect. There are some teachers that have been protected because of laws that should not be teaching, because they don't have their heart in it, or they are rude and cruel every day, but they maintain their job. So the buck, we have bucks in place, but there's also this ability to lose common sense.
Mm-hmm.
And that, I think, is the problem, is the common sense is lost with these solid bucks from both ends in place.
Yeah, we used to, I mean, from the simplest things that all kids have that we all do, and it's important part of, the maturity process, being able to tell parents the truth about your kid. You'd sit there at a parent conference or when you'd call them up on the phone and you'd tell them the truth in a diplomatic but hopefully clear way and and in a loving way because that's what you're doing. And when that turns into, like you say, the whole cume of paperwork that protects the child from anything, where they can chew gum in the classroom while they're listening to music on a head pod and throw
And the other 30
furniture, and the other
children
kids,
can't.
right, and everyone else is expected to
Pretend
pretend
it's
like that's
okay.
normal. Like
Yes.
pretend like that's a learning environment for that child. And then what I'm
It's the
seeing now,
pretending.
and
Good point.
and then what
Mm-hmm.
I'm seeing now is that there are more and more situations like that where kids are
Mm-hmm.
saying what we already knew was when you undermine authority like that, well then I want to do it too, and then they get their paperwork started and you're like, why are we doing this? This doesn't make any sense. Um it and it's about telling the truth because that's
Right.
not, you know It's like people when you bring your service dog, you make your dog into a service dog, and it's not a service dog. You just want to bring your dog into the store with you or in the restaurant with you, and you put a little thing on them. Let's tell the truth. I mean,
Oh.
I just it doesn't make sense to me. To me, I go back to, and I just was thinking about this today as I was preparing for our conversation. I remember the movie To Sir with Love, Sidney Poitier.
Oh my gosh. I saw
He
that probably
was,
40 years ago.
yeah,
Yeah.
he was uh such an inspiration. I to me when I saw
Handsome.
that movie, I just, well, yeah, I mean everything, the whole
Yeah.
package.
All of it.
And so much of how I see education where you love the kids so much, you're trying out innovative new things, you try to reach them, you try to relate to them, and you struggle and you do and you make that impact on kids. And that's what it takes a village. That's when the buck stops here. He didn't give up, even when his job was threatened because some girl was so,
Wow.
infatuated with him, and there was a hint of impropriety on top of the racism of that time. It
Right.
was very, and
So
he
many layers.
he reacted as a human does, and you get to see that, and he maintained that buck stops here attitude, which
Yeah.
is, I don't know, that grit of what it takes, that commitment to what it takes. I think I'm wondering if that's dying out in our society, because that's certainly something of the boomer generation, which I am the very tail end, where you're so tenacious and you don't give in even at your own detriment, and because what you're doing is noble and right. It's not like you're doing it because you're doing something incorrectly. You're doing it because it's noble and right. And that's where it does wear on you. It wears you out. It exhausts you. It At some point it could push you from your career, or it could make you weaken to where you don't follow that norm that you've had all your whole life, which is the stops here, and knowing that you're giving up that responsibility. Then when you do that, you're not carrying it to the degree you should be as a person with integrity.
So the whole point of the buck stops here is really holding your value
Right,
no matter what.
right,
And when we bring it to teaching, I chose, I mean, partly because I had always wanted to do, the Cuba idea for many years, but it was also more than that too. And I think it's because I saw such areas where my values weren't in alignment with the system, and the system is too big, too deep, starting, from again, leadership going all the way to the top government officials, that it was too large. I can't change, or I don't have enough in me to fight that particular fight, to be the person like Martin Luther King for the rights, the civil rights. And for me, I didn't feel like I could be that person to put my soul into teachers' rights, you know?
Well, because do you have to choose your track, and that's the thing is like the buck stops here in your classroom on the daily shouldn't be something where you're trying to change institutions
But if you
across.
don't have support, exactly. But if there's no support going from the principal on up, then what do you have?
Right, and so you have to decide whether you're going to give up
Buck.
your intent, and
The
your
buck?
goals, and go to do a larger, more intense thing.
Right.
Only some people can do that and want to do that. I mean,
Right.
that's taking on. So this is the part that is wrong. Is like all those individual bucks that you hold,
Mhm.
all those lines that you hold, should be supported and valued by society. And when they're not, you have to change society. And you can do that at a small scale in your classroom, on the daily, and understand that that does have an impact. And that's what I felt when the buck stops here and you're talking in your classroom, you have figure out ways to communicate, show, model, live the values that you're trying to
Hold for you and demonstrate for others.
right, those values that you're trying to hold and model for the parents as well. You
Mm-hmm.
can reach them, you impact them, or you impact enough of them that it makes a change. This is the whole thing with teaching, is like they always talk about this, how a teacher is impacting. And we all have teachers that we remember with great love and
Love.
affection. I would hope that all of us have that. And that taught you something, even the ones that were difficult or hard or you didn't respect, they taught you something that makes you who you
Or
are
they taught you
for
what
the
you would never
best.
do to another human being. I've had those experiences as well.
And it's all powerful and yeah.
I agree with you. And then let's put on the layers again. You can hold your value. I agree. And you can make a difference. I agree. But if that value is not seen the same by your administrator, then, and especially in our school where the parents had as much, if not more, power and authority than the leaders, then it only takes one person, an outlier, to make it an impossible job in an already very difficult job.
Yep. And that
Because
happens
that
on the
one,
regular to everybody.
exactly,
Yeah, all those teachers
exactly,
out there are living that. Yeah.
exactly. And so I think it's more than just doing it within your system. It just depends on who are the people in your sphere that year of school and what battles you want to do. And I think that Sue goes back to what you said and makes me the saddest to in a way for survival. And so here I am doing it in a way too, because if the administrator and the people in the district office um pretend that it's all fine, you kind of get as a teacher to the same place where if that's not going to be supported and they're pretending that it's fine, then I have to pretend it's fine too in order to show up with some sort of energy to do the job I've been given.
I felt it. I felt a change in my career when I was towards the end where it's like, okay, this is not the same and things have
System.
changed. Yeah, it's not the same
I,
system. It's not it and things have changed so much that the change is so, and the fight against it, the pushback against it is so difficult that it makes you really question why you're there. I mean, I remember along the way we always were saying how we could always improve things, like, oh, we could start our
yeah, and you're
own.
excited. You
Yes.
show up
Yes, because
excited.
there's going to be buy-in in for that. But there's so
Correct.
much change in our society right now, and so much gutting it and gutting the reality of good teaching. Um, and I don't, I mean, I don't mean to sound pessimistic, but I don't think I'm being pessimistic. I think I am a realistic person, and that this is the reality of things that are happening. And there is great teaching out there, even with all this stuff going on, and
Hmm.
it's all
And
that
I
burden that
admire
they're
them.
having to carry and hold, and it is harder and harder um, to stand by and watch that. I mean, we got to commend those people and support them. And if they can last 10 years, great, and then the next, but that's wrong. They should be able to have their career, their whole career. And yeah, it's so frustrating. Ugh. Sorry, y'all who are still out there teaching.
I know, and I know, and but at the same time, maybe they will see a change, just like we saw a change. Maybe they're going to see an upward positive. We got to go that way, Sue. You know, maybe as things swing, it will swing back. It will swing back.
I'm just going to laugh as we finish
Okay.
up. All right.
Yeah. Oh, I want to share another little piece of information. Interesting. My daughter is thinking about getting her substitute uh, credential so that she has like a backup plan while she's trying to land jobs. And in our area anyway, at least when we were still teaching, substitutes were in demand. We were just grateful if we could get one even. In fact, we were even being asked to combine classes under one teacher because there were no substitutes, meaning, hey, just be in charge of 60 kids for the day. Okay. So at that time, there were no subs. Now I'm learning, at least in San Diego, like San Diego is not even taking any more subs. So I don't know if it's changed or if it's the area, but I find that absolutely amazing. Does that not shock you? I thought everywhere we were in a shortage of substitutes.
Yeah.
And on that last and final piece of substitute teaching, I find it incredibly insulting that there are still schools in the other area within the San Diego system. It's the San Diego County, right? And there are different school districts within. And one of them is charging or giving $183. So I was trying to put this into reality for my daughter who's thinking about making ends meet. I said, of which you might get about 130 clear. You've got to spend gas going to and from. So really think about what you're taking. Because if you're driving an hour in traffic, you're burning up another $40, whatever, in gas, right? So in the end, you may just be coming home with 110 at most for a full day of work. And it might be better to work at In-N-Out and make money driving 5 miles to work for the same. And the reason I say this is, and I've always felt this way, it is insulting that you would have a degree going in to take care of what we should think is the most important thing in the world, little beings versus computers and objects, right? And then to be making, at best, sort of a minimum wage amount of money, and especially for teachers like us that have had 30 years of experience, and they would still give us the same pay as someone that's fresh out of school. It is amazing to me, the substitute situation. There, thank you. That felt good.
Thanks for listening. Now let's pack up this week's episode in the trunk.
Ride shotgun and be a part of our adventure by clicking on the plus sign to follow our show. This will help our ratings and, more importantly, inspire us to keep creating fun and engaging content. We would love to hear from you in the comment sections or email us at retiredpodcastnewtred@gmail.com. Use the fast track lane by sharing episodes with friends, family, and anyone who would like to join us on a road trip through retirement.
Be sure to check the show notes for links and contact information. Retired is chauffeured by Sue Britz and Tina Lokkbakk. It is produced, directed, and edited by me, Sue Britz. Music and graphics are by me, too. Buckle up and tune in next week so that you won't miss your chance to
join our retired road trip. Yeah, what do you know about subbing, Sue?
I don't want to do it. You know, and the thing, the principal would ever say, can you just take these
Oh, I
30?
was so angry.
You're like, you know what? According to Ed Code, it's criminal, and it's against. I can't do that. And the reality is, you need to go take that classroom.